the Browns just beat the Titans 41-35. And the final score says that this was a close game, but that's not quite really true. Cleveland dominated. The Browns were up 38-7 at halftime. And then after halftime, things slowed down for Cleveland, where some of that was intentional. For example, they had a 9-play drive early in the fourth quarter. 9 plays, only 24 yards, but they took over 7 minutes off the clock. So they were just running the ball, taking their time. They had the big lead. They're trying to just run at the clock and do what they could. Only 3 points for them in the second half. But kind of the interesting point here was the Titans running back, Derrick Henry, only had 60 yards rushing. You go, what happened there? And part of that is a couple things working there. Number one, the Browns defense did really well early on, limiting the Titans on first down. Number two, the Titans, for some reason I didn't quite understand, kept trying to throw the ball early in the game. I'm like, what? It's first and second down. Like, why? Run the ball. You're Tennessee. Run the football. They kept not running the ball. They had a couple possessions where they went 3 and out, 3 passes in a row. I went, why are you doing that? Your identity's running the football. And then later in the game, because Cleveland was scoring at will, they were up by so much that Tennessee basically had to abandon the run to try to throw and get back into the game. So Derrick Henry had very few yards in the game. There's a big reason for that. Now, Baker Mayfield, the Browns quarterback, was nearly flawless in this game. I walked away very, very impressed. He was 25 for 33 passing, 334 yards, 4 passing touchdowns. And those 8 incompletions, 8 incomplete passes there really were no bad or ugly incompletions. They were all throws that were there were 3 drops, there were a couple throwaways, one was tipped. This was a really, really great game for Baker Mayfield. I'm happy to say that. I've been saying for a while. I guess, first of all, we have to mention this, though, because in fairness, right? Tennessee has a really, really hard time generating a pass rush. They tried adding Jadeveon Clowney. He's more of a Robin than a Batman. He's more of a number 2 than a number 1. He's not going to do enough by himself. And the Titans are second to last in the entire NFL in recorded sacks. So it's the Bengals are the worst, then the Titans, then the Jaguars. If you're worse than the Jaguars at any statistic, you're probably not doing things very well. And so Tennessee, again, I think that Baker had a lot of time to throw the ball. There's a reason for that. Some of that is the shortcomings of Tennessee. But I got a couple thoughts. In the last couple weeks leading up to this game, he had the Jaguars game was pretty good last week. Then again, he's good against the Titans. But the 3 games before that Jaguars game, people kept criticizing Baker Mayfield for having really low numbers. And I said, look, numbers are not everything. And I think it's really stupid to take shots at Baker Mayfield when you haven't watched the football game. So remember, in that 3-game stretch where the Browns actually went 2-1, there were 3 games in November in Cleveland. Really terrible weather was going on. It was kind of an anomaly. Cleveland doesn't have great weather anyway, and then it was extra bad weather those couple games. And so I defended Baker during that stretch. A lot of people said, well, Baker's terrible. He's washed up. He's this, he's that. He's not good. And I would point out that even opposing quarterbacks were not that great in those games. And as the year has gone on, Baker has gotten better and better. And he's taking care of the ball. He's been very efficient. He's making good decisions. He's been very accurate. He makes a couple throws a game where you go, dang, Baker, that's a great, fantastic throw. I think people aren't recognizing how good Baker is doing this year and how much better he's been getting. Not just, this year in general, but week to week, he's gotten better and better and better. And it's so obvious to me that Kevin Stefanski, the new head coach in Cleveland, could not be a better coach for Baker. Their offense is great. And I gotta say, watching this game, one thing came to mind as I'm watching Baker Mayfield throw the ball and do very well, and they're running the ball heavily. I could not help but compare Baker Mayfield to the Rams quarterback, Jared Goff. They're both oddly very, very similar. So consider this. Both Jared Goff and Baker Mayfield were both number 1 overall picks. They both started with bad coaches. They needed a good coach to save their career. Jared Goff needed Sean McVay. Baker needed Kevin Stefanski. And again, although I would argue that every quarterback needs a good coach. It's really hard to do anything good in any football league if you don't have a good coach. So it's kind of but it is reality. You would say, when did Baker get better? Kevin Stefanski. When did Jared Goff look like he was going to work in the NFL? Sean McVay. The new coach had to save their career. And then also, both Baker Mayfield and Jared Goff have been inconsistent at times. They've had a lot of highs. There've also been a lot of lows and moments where people go, what is this guy doing? Or should we give up on him? And I don't know whether this is controversial or not, but where my brain went as I was watching the Browns-Titans game on Sunday, late Sunday night, I watched it late, I recorded it. And this might be controversial, I don't know, but I would take Baker Mayfield over Jared Goff in a heartbeat. I'll tell you why. It's a couple big reasons. Number one, Baker, this is silly, but I don't know. I don't know that it's silly. I think it does matter, but I think it's debatable, and you can argue with me. And this is the most, if you want to argue with anything I'm about to say next, this is the most arguable thing you can just disagree with me on. I believe Baker Mayfield has more fire than Jared Goff, and I think that matters. You can see Baker cares. The dude really, really wants to win. And I want that in my quarterback. And when you watch Jared Goff, he always has seemed very apathetic. Like he's just kind of indifferent to how well he does and indifferent to what happens around him. And I know this is borderline unfair. I've never met either guy. But from what I've seen, I prefer Baker. Baker's got that story of he overcame a lot. He had adversity in college. He had to walk on twice. He's always seemed very driven. There's a passionate fire about Baker Mayfield that I prefer. Again, Jared Goff feels like he's plateaued. He's indifferent. He's safe. He knows he's safe. And he's a rich, happy guy who lives in a great house in L.A. And I haven't felt like recently Jared Goff, where is the drive to get better and to go farther? Jared Goff, it feels like he's plateaued, gotten to a point where he's probably not going to get any better. He's kind of middle of the pack. And that's it. But here's another reason to pick Baker Mayfield over Jared Goff. Jared Goff is in year 5. I want to ask you, how many quarterbacks do you think keep getting better after year 5? By year 5, you kind of know who they are. You kind of figured out, okay, this is what this quarterback is. Oh, and by the way, Jared Goff has been with Sean McVay, the savior head coach, for 4 years. After 4 years with Sean McVay, a brilliant, great head coach, if we're not seeing more improvement, we've kind of seen it. You kind of reached their ceiling. We've seen the best of Jared Goff we're probably ever going to see. Doesn't mean he can't play good in the future. He'll probably still playing good, but do you think he's ever going to get much better? I don't really think he is. Now with Baker Mayfield, where Jared Goff has hit his ceiling, it feels like, Baker Mayfield's only in year 3, and he's only in year 1 with his new good coach. And Baker's still getting better. Every time I watch Baker Mayfield, I go, that's a little better than last time. So Baker Mayfield's on the upswing, where Jared Goff has hit his ceiling and kind of plateaued. That does matter. Who's got more potential? Now, I believe Baker's got a bright future ahead of him, and I think a lot of people don't realize how much having bad coaching those first 2 years with Hugh Jackson, then Freddie Kitchens, having a bad coach really, really hurt Baker Mayfield's career early on. And I look at the Browns right now, they're 9-3. Kevin Stefanski's done a great job there. In year 1 as their head coach. You got Kevin Stefanski in year 1 as head coach. They've got Andrew Berry, the new general manager. And the roster in Cleveland was just begging for good leadership. They were just begging for somebody to take all the talent they have in Cleveland and give them good coaching and point them in the right direction. They have Baker Mayfield. They got Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt. They got 3 good tight ends, Austin Hooper, Harrison Bryant, David Njoku. They got some good receivers, Rashard Higgins. They have, Jarvis Landry, OBJ, whenever he is healthy, if they keep him. They have 2 good offensive tackles. They have Jedrick Wills. They have Jack Conklin. They've got Myles Garrett on defense, Denzel Ward at corner. Greedy Williams, when he's healthy, he's great. They got Grant Delpit when he's healthy. Like, the names go on and on and on. There's so much talent right now in Cleveland, and they got the right coach finally to point them in the right direction. I love Baker Mayfield. I think he's playing very well. I think better than people are giving him credit for. People love to take shots at Baker Mayfield. That's like the popular thing to do. I don't think it's fair. Watch how Baker's playing. You go, playing playing at a high level and getting better every single week. And then again, I kind of go back to this, man. I am so happy for the city of Cleveland. For the longest time, I've been waiting and like really my whole lifetime, I've been hoping the Browns could finally do something positive and maybe become a good team. And I'm not a Browns fan. I don't care how Cleveland does, but when you watch someone get beat over the head over and over and over again, eventually you go, man, they're the underdog, and I want to see that underdog succeed. Well, Cleveland, let me tell you, your team is finally good, And they're 9-3. I'm happy to finally say that. Like, oh my gosh, it's so cool to me to see the Cleveland Browns doing well. I mean, I love seeing that. They're a playoff team right now, and Baker's playing well. They got the coach right. They got the general manager right. Well done, Cleveland. I'm so happy for you. The Cleveland Browns are finally a good football team.